Joining me now is Mr. Rob McPheron, the president of the Northwestern Educational Region. Thank you for joining me.
Sure.
So my first question for you is, what is your job in education and what is OSBA?
Okay. My job in education as a board member for Bath Local is to hire a superintendent and a treasurer. And then when they make recommendations to us at a board meeting, we approve those recommendations. They do all the hiring, they do all the finance. OSBA is the organization, it's actually an association that boards belong to. Now there's 713 school boards in the state of Ohio. 711 of them belong to the OSBA.
That's amazing.
So we have a pretty good compliance of boards, and we try to work for the betterment of public education.
Yeah. So how would you describe this OSBA Capital Conference to someone who doesn't know what it is?
The Capital Conference brings, I think we get like 9,000 board members, treasurers, superintendents, support staffs of the school come down here, and this part of the building is where all the vendors are at. So if you're building a new school or refurbishing a new school or you need something for your school, usually you can come down here and find a vendor that can help you look at your stuff, and there's probably a multitude of vendors. Just the school buses, I think there's probably 5 different companies that supply school buses. Well, that's, to a lot of schools, that's the number one thing that picks up the kid.
Yeah.
And so they're down here. There are a lot of architect firms, a lot of construction companies, computer people, and that's on this side of the curtain. And on the other side of the curtain is the student activity fair, where like a student like yourself comes down here and shines and shows us what they do, and we are pleased to have them come. And then we have entertainment sections where the kids will come in and perform. Several years ago, we started a sign language course at Bath that exploded we have 157 kids every year that wants to take sign language because it's their foreign language course. And a lot of them don't want to speak a foreign language, but the sign language course they love. And they came down and they did sign language to music, and they do it every year at school, but it's entertaining. When they did it down here, I mean, everybody in the building, I thought, eventually showed up down there. There was 200 or 300 people watching these kids.
That's awesome.
So,
well, how long have you been around these conferences and coming to these and seeing all this action?
this is my 16th year as a board member, and I've been coming for 16 years. My first 3 or 4, I just came down as just a board member. I would take vacation from work, and we work here during the day, but at night there's different activities going on, adult activities going on, that we will go to different places and talk to people, and it's an informal setting. A lot of business gets done.
And could you share what your favorite part of the conference is?
Probably the student section, where you walk over and you see second graders and they have a project that they're so proud of, and you walk up and then you ask questions. I don't know if you've been over there or not, but you might have high school kids with the robotics or drug awareness programs, and that's organizations that they've started in their schools, and we get to see.
So when you're congregating with all these people and you're talking about education, what do you find the biggest challenge to be in education right now?
Gosh, well, I don't want to make anybody mad at the State House, but the legislators have taken away local control of school boards. And school board, we vote on stuff, but each school has a policy book, and our policy book is about 4 inches thick, and at the end of every policy, it's either an ORC, Ohio Regulation Code, that we have to abide by. We can't say no. And they keep forcing stuff down us that sometimes does not make sense, or they don't fund it. And they ask us where the funding is coming from, like the CCP, the College Credit Plus.
Yeah.
Last year, our school, and we have a OSU branch 5 miles from our school.
Yeah.
And we got 5 universities within a half hour of our school. We spent $150,000 out of our general fund last year because the state didn't fund it. So we take that $150,000 out of our fund to pay for books, to pay for the credit hours, and this year it's going to be $360-some thousand. That is $1.5 million on our levy. That's $1.5 million. Now that money's gone that we can't use on our campus. So the teachers now are looking at, well, if we're losing money and I don't have a student in my room, they're down at the university taking the class, how many teachers do you need?
Mm-hmm.
And when you're paying a teacher and an older 10, 15-year-old teacher is probably at Bath are probably making $60-some thousand a year. Well, if you eliminate that class, then now you got $60,000 back. Instead of losing $360,000, now you're watching your budgets. Every school is watching their budgets.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge.
And they took our, and this is technical, it's called personal property tangible tax.
Mm-hmm.
And they took that away from us 10 or 15 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And they started phasing it away. Our schools lost about $6 million in that funding. We have a large Ford Motor Company. We got Procter & Gamble in our township. And we used to get that extra money from them where the corporations were paying 60% of our bill and the taxpayers were paying 40 cents. And now it's changed with the taxpayers paying the 60 or 70% of and it's tough on the taxpayer.
Mm-hmm. Definitely.
When your taxes go up, I get phone calls. Why did my taxes go up?
Yeah.
And then you have to sit there and say, well, it's been legislated that way.
Well, taking some of those challenges and then just looking at your own region, what would you say makes your region unique?
Well, Bath would be an urban farm community where you go 5 miles anywhere from the school and you can either be in beautiful farmland or you can be in an urban setting. And we have the diversity of that, and it's just a good school. It's a good community. We don't have a city. We don't have a village. We really don't have a township to say home. We're just a township that is a little bit different. Spencerville is a school in our area. Well, they're a village, and Delphus they're a village,
Mm-hmm.
and there's no one to, you can't go down to the corner store and you go over to the mall.
Yeah.
So that's what makes us unique.
Okay. So when you're looking at how everybody's unique and how you all congregate at this conference, how would you say that OSBA helps to lead education in the right direction?
Well, they keep us informed of stuff going here at the State House. We have a thing called Kids PAC. I don't know if you know what that is. That's the Political Action Committee
Mm-hmm.
for OSBA. So yesterday I made a donation to the Kids PAC. That's this button this year.
Oh, okay.
They give out different buttons this year.
Mm-hmm.
And those people talk to the legislators and they keep us informed of, some people are for us and some people are against us at the state level. And it's public education. It's a school that, 80% of the kids in this state go to public education. And they're trying to tear it apart.
Mm-hmm.
It's not right. So.
Yeah. Well, education does go through a lot of change, especially with legislation that's passed here at OSBA Capitol Conference and in the State House. So what trends have you been seeing in education, and what trends would you like to see in education?
Well, 6 or 7 years ago is when they started trending towards these charter schools, and you had all these charter schools start up, and you had the electronic schools start up. And don't get me wrong, some of them were good,
Mm-hmm.
but when you take the structure away from the student of having a teacher in front of them to teach, that's changed the perspective of how education goes on.
Yeah.
If you get a diploma from an electronic school, let's say, and you only stayed on the computer an hour a day, what were you doing the rest of the time? Mm-hmm. In a structured environment, and you go to school, and you're probably in class 4.5, 5 hours a day. You get your lunch, you get your study halls. So it's a structured environment, and communications between you and another student happens. You don't get that same thing when you're in a electronic school.
Yeah.
A charter school, they're transients. They can, if they don't like that school, they can go to another school. You know, that's just my thoughts.
Well, the last question I have for you is, the theme for this conference has been leadership for learning. So what does leadership for learning mean to you?
Oh man, you're asking some tough questions here, son. Golly, leadership for learning. Well, take yourself for an example. You're out here. You're doing an interview. This may be your life's calling. You may be on the next Fox commentator or the next CNN star. You know, you start off small and you lead, and you're a leader. Most of these people that come down here want to come down here to learn something to better their community and school. And if we don't push that, it will be lost, because there's people that don't care. There's parents that don't care their kids go to school, and then there's parents that, you know, you're going to get a college education, and I'm going to drive you through school, and you're going to make it. Being a leader is going out there and making that choice to want to do something. I mean, you don't have to do a whole lot. You could start picking up trash on the ground, and the next guy behind you goes, oh, okay, maybe I'll pick up a little bit of trash, and things will get cleaned up little by little. You just take little steps, and you can become a leader, and you don't know it. So.
Yeah. Well, hopefully we'll all learn to follow that example. Thank you so much for your time, and it's been a pleasure talking with you.
Nice meeting you.